Thank you very much, Joe, for that wonderful introduction. I am here from San Francisco. I was told that if I wore a suit, it would actually torpedo my credibility as a tech nerd. So I dressed down a little bit today for you. I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about AI. You will see that excitement come through because I'm definitely going to nerd out in a lot of the different places here today. I know AI can be new and can be pretty intimidating sometimes. It is always great to get a little peek into who is in the audience. So I will ask a couple questions. First off, who here has ever used AI before? Okay, great. Who here feels a little bit of apprehension about using AI? Few people, great. Who here has used AI for something related to the job search? Amazing. Okay, well, I hope that today we are going to cover something that will be new to you. I am planning on walking through the job search process. So what you're seeing up here are all of the steps that we're going to go through tonight. I'm going to talk about a lot of different tools. You do not have to write all of them down. They will all be on this site that is here, and you will all have a very easy link to it. I'll tell you it right now. It's hiringcoach.ai/CNM. So hopefully is very easy for you to remember. I'll say it again at the end. So you don't need to write down all the tools. I'm going to show you a lot of different tools. Many of these tools will all do the same thing. Part of what I want to do here tonight is to introduce you to the breadth of tools that are out there to be able to help you do different parts of this job search. So I'm going to start in a place of the self-reflective portion of this job search, where you're really thinking about what is it that I'm good at, what is it that I enjoy doing, and how does that map onto the real world where I can put my skills to good use. After that, we're going to go into some more of the exploration part of this, of again, sort of looking out into the world, finding people that might be able to help us learn about some of these different places that we might be exploring. And then we'll finish this with some more of the nuts and bolts of actually applying how you can use AI to help you do things like revamp your resume or do things with interview prep and some more of that just mechanical part of actually going through that last leg of the process. So let's jump in to our first module, which is the self-reflection module. What I'm showing you up here, this is a page on Hiring Coach. This is called the prompt library. When you are using a lot of these AI tools like ChatGPT or a few others that we're going to talk about today, the prompt is the piece of text that you put into the AI tool. Sometimes it can be a little intimidating to know exactly what to write in that prompt in order for it to give you the results that you're looking for. And so part of what this prompt library is doing here is taking just that one step away from you of having to figure out what are all of the things that I need to write in order to accomplish this task that I'm doing. So the first step here, we can go to the next tab, is to explore what are the things that I really love doing myself. This is a prompt here that I'm going to give to ChatGPT that is basically just giving it some very basic instructions about asking ChatGPT to take on the role of a coach and to try and help me tease out from my own brain some of the ways that I can think about what are things that I am passionate about, that energize me, that make me really want to do the things that I'm going to do. And so I'll have us go to the next tab. And we're here in ChatGPT. The first tool I want to show you is you're all familiar with ChatGPT, I assume. One feature of ChatGPT that I think is very, very cool is called voice mode. With voice mode in ChatGPT, rather than typing in your text and having ChatGPT give you back text and having that text conversation back and forth, voice mode allows you to actually have an out loud conversation with ChatGPT. I think one of the ways that we have come to think about AI very frequently is as something that is able to rewrite a lot of things. It'll write emails for us. It'll, write social media posts for us or what have you, but it is a very, very powerful tool that can do so much more than just writing things. So what I want to show you right now is what it looks like when you have that conversation with ChatGPT. The way that you access this is when you are on ChatGPT, in the lower right-hand corner of that input box is a button that when you hover over it will say voice mode. So when you click on that, a little bubble is going to show up. It's going to look something like that. It's going to take a second to initialize, and then you start talking, and it will talk back to you. So we can get out of here. There is a 100% chance that if I try to do a live voice demo, it will absolutely fail. And so I have pre-recorded what this looks like. It's about 5 minutes. And so let's take a look at what it looks like when we have that live conversation with ChatGPT.
Hi, ChatGPT. I would like you to be my personal career discovery coach. What I want is for you to dig into what truly lights me up and gives me energy. I want you to ask really thoughtful and reflective questions, and I want you to push me to go deeper when I'm being vague. Our goal here is to figure out not necessarily what I'm good at, but what I really enjoy doing. Are you ready?
Absolutely, I'm ready. Let's dive in and uncover what genuinely excites you. To start, can you tell me about a moment or project in your career that made you feel truly fulfilled and energized?
Sure, yeah. Most recently, I've been working on a really big partnerships project that is going to bring in potentially several $1 million to our organization over the next few years. And what really excites me about that is that I know that this money could really, really expand our capacity as an organization to expand access to healthcare for folks all over the world.
That sounds amazing. It seems like the impact and the scale of that project really light you up. What specifically about that kind of work gives you the most energy? Is it the relationship building, the strategic planning, or the knowledge that you're driving tangible social impact?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what gets me going with this project is the idea that we are going to be able to help so many people.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like the direct connection between your efforts and the positive change for people is what truly fuels you. Have you found that having a clear, tangible impact is a key motivator for you in other roles as well?
Yeah, it is. The thing is, I already know that about myself. I know that social impact is really meaningful to me. What I would like you to help me figure out is what are the other things that also really motivate me?
Got it. Let's dig a bit deeper. Aside from the social impact, think about the tasks or environments that get you into a state of flow. Are there particular activities like mentoring your team, diving into data, or designing new strategies that consistently make you lose track of time and leave you feeling accomplished?
Yeah, well, when I think about this project, something else that really excites me is when I'm able to think very strategically about the organization that we are potentially partnering with and trying to understand what their goals are and really thinking through all of the different possible scenarios about how we could work together. And it's really fulfilling to me when we have those conversations of getting that really positive response from our partners and them being really excited to be working together as well.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you really thrive on strategic thinking and relationship building, especially when it leads to mutual enthusiasm and alignment. So, besides social impact, it seems that you also get a lot of energy from the strategic and collaborative elements of your work.
Yeah, I'm
Have
going
you
to pause you
noticed?
here, ChatGPT. We need to wrap this conversation up. Give me a bulleted list of everything you've learned about me here, about what really excites me.
Of course, here's what I've gathered about what excites you. You're deeply motivated by having a tangible social impact and knowing your work helps people on a large scale. You thrive on strategic thinking, especially when it involves understanding partners' goals and aligning them with your organization's mission. You find fulfillment in relationship building and the positive response from partners when you create exciting collaborative opportunities. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to explore or if you need more insights.
Yeah, so let's take those insights and layer on everything you know about me from my resume. I want you to lay out for me three potential career options for me to explore next.
Sure thing. Based on your passion for social impact, strategic thinking, and partnership building, here are 3 potential career paths you could explore next. 1. Director of Partnerships at a global nonprofit. This role would let you leverage your strategic and relationship building
I'm going
skills.
to interrupt you here, ChatGPT. Working in global nonprofits, working in roles that have a social impact, those are ones that I've really explored a lot of already. I want you to give me 3 options of roles I might not have thought about yet, but that are a good fit for my skill set and are places where people could actually see me fitting in there as well.
Absolutely. Let's think outside the box. Here are 3 roles you might not have considered but could be a great fit. 1. Impact Investing Advisor. You'd guide socially conscious investors to fund high-impact initiatives, using your strategic and analytical skills to ensure their investments create meaningful social returns. 2. Corporate Innovation Lead in Social Enterprises. You could work within a private sector company that focuses on social good, driving innovative programs that blend profitability with impact, much like you've done with CSR initiatives. 3. Strategy Consultant for Philanthropic Foundations. Advising foundations on how to maximize their social impact portfolios could utilize your expertise in data-driven decision-making and cross-sector innovation.
So we saw a few things in that demo. The first is that I was able to have that actual conversation with ChatGPT, and where it started with was me giving ChatGPT a very specific role and a goal of what I wanted it to do. There were a couple places along the way where ChatGPT started either giving me redundant information, things I had already thought about, or just information that I just really wasn't finding useful. And in those cases, I have full control over this conversation. So I can take ChatGPT and redirect it back to a place that is going to be more productive for me. A few other things that you saw there was that I was really pushing ChatGPT itself to be more quote unquote creative. And so it was giving me things that seem pretty obvious. And those are pretty obvious to me. It's going to make sense that it's obvious to ChatGPT. So when I take away the obvious, that's when we get to some of the more interesting insights about where I could be going as I'm exploring all of the different potential future career options. So let's move on to, I should say, last thing here. Voice is ephemeral, it leaves us, but when you are done with that conversation, you have the full transcript of it here, so you can always refer back to all of the things that were said in that conversation. I will also say, as a high-level comment, that all of the tools you're going to see here today all have, at the very least, a free tier. And so all of the functionalities that you're seeing here are all going to be part of some free part of whatever tools we're looking at. Alrighty. So let's go on to the next one. We've talked about what are the things that really energize me. Another lens that we could be looking at ourselves on is what are the things that I'm actually really good at. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm back at the prompt library. I'm looking specifically at this prompt that is with the goal of helping me identify what are my skills. And the AI is going to be able to do this exclusively from just my resume and the very specific instructions we have on this prompt. And so we can go on to the next tab here. And the specifics of that prompt, they don't really matter. Part of this is that the details of that prompt are written for you, so you don't really have to think about it. That said, you can always edit it and add certain things that are very specific to what you want to be seeing at the other end of this. So what we've done here, this is a second tool that we're looking at. This is called Claude. Claude is a competitor to ChatGPT. It has a lot of very similar functionality. Everything that we're going to see in Claude, you could just as easily do in ChatGPT. This is just another option for you to check out as you are looking at what are all of the different AI tools that I could be using to explore. Each of these tools is going to have its own particular flavor, its own particular UI, and some of those might jive more with you than others. And so this is where I'd really encourage you to take a few minutes just to try everything out and give it a go. You don't need to go with it forever. In fact, I would recommend trying one of them out, but really seeing which one you like best and mostly using that one, because that will keep everything all in one place and it's just going to be easier to stay organized. That said, here's Claude. what I've done here in Claude is I've pasted in that prompt from that prompt library. I have dragged into Claude my resume file, either as a PDF or the Word doc, and then I've hit go. I haven't done anything else here. And what Claude has spit out for us is a summary of that analysis that I've asked it for. It is identifying specific skills for me. For each of those skills, I've asked it to pull out examples from my resume. For each of those skills, it's also giving me a more specific analysis of that skill. And then it is giving me recommendations for what to do now that I have that skill moving forward. And it's done this for several skills along the way. And so we can scroll all the way to the bottom. And you can see that there are several skills because I've asked it to do 5. You could ask it to do 10. You could ask it to do 3. You could ask it all sorts of different ways that you want to analyze those skills. It's really up to you about what is going to be most useful to you as you are thinking about how do I reflect on what my skills are. I imagine many of you have held many jobs, and I imagine in every one of those jobs you have done 12 different things every week. And so you're probably coming into this feeling like you have a lot of different skills that can take you to a lot of different career paths. And so having the clarity around what are the specific skills that I'm bringing, what are the ones that jump out from my resume, can really help bring some clarity forward about the places that you could be looking. Or alternatively, if you're surprised by the set of skills that you're seeing, that's really data for you to think about, well, how am I presenting myself? What is missing from the way that I'm presenting myself that the skills that I thought were going to be there are not there? So let's move on to the next demo here, which is now that we've identified what excites me, we've identified what am I good at, how do we now map that onto the real world? Where can I look to go find opportunities that are going to fit the intersection of those two things? So we're again here back at the prompt library. We're going to have this prompt that is going to take the information from our resume. It's going to layer it onto the specific instructions that I've given it here. And it's going to help identify some of the places that I could start exploring. So we can move on to the next tab. This is your third AI platform. It is called Perplexity. This is perplexity.ai. The slight different flavor of Perplexity is that this is the more search-forward AI platform. I say that with a little bit of a caveat because all of these AI platforms are all copying everyone else's features. And so you're going to find basically the same functionality, again, with ChatGPT, with Claude, with Gemini that we'll see a little bit later. So this is just another option for you. What I like about this option is that it will give you the actual sources of information that it is using to create the analysis that it is doing. And so what you can see there is what I've done here is I've pasted the prompt in. I've, again, dropped in my resume file, and I've had it analyze those things. It has pulled out a list of 21 sources there, and I can click over onto that Sources tab, and it will show me all of these different places that it has done a search itself to pull out that relevant information to then create the analysis. And so if we go back to the answer, and then we scroll down, what I've asked this to do is to look at my skills, my profile, and map out the different industries that are A, growing, and B, align with my skill set. And so it has created this table for me. It has scored all of those things, and it has stack ranked them according to what is the best match, both for a sector that is growing as well as fits my skill set. If I continue on down below the table, now I can see the actual details about each of those sectors. It is giving me this specific information because I've asked for this specific information. I have asked it to tell me why is this sector aligned with my background. I've asked it to tell me how much is this sector growing, and I've asked it to tell me where is the set of 5 companies where I should start exploring if I want to be diving more into this industry. Alrighty, we can go on to the next tab here. All right, so what we've done so far, we figured out what excites us. We have figured out what we're good at. We have figured out where we could potentially apply those skills. What I want to show you here is another feature in another AI platform. This is Gemini. Gemini is made by Google. It is, again, similar to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity. This is one of those sort of base level AI platforms. One of the very cool features about Gemini is that it has a mode in it called deep research. So the way that you are probably familiar with interacting with AI is you type in something, it takes a half a second, and it types something back. And then you type in something, and then it types something back. With deep research, what you are instructing the AI to do is you type something, and it is going to treat that like it is a full-on PhD level research report that you are asking it to do. And that PhD research report can be about literally anything, including about you. And it can be about where you might fit into this bigger job world. And so what I have done here is I've written a small little prompt that asks it to analyze my resume and lists out a few different criteria for how I want it to analyze this. I will also have popped in my resume file into this interface. The way to activate deep research mode is that on the box here at the very bottom, there is a button that says deep research. That's all you got to do. You got to click that. If I then were to hit go, it is going to lay out a research plan for me. It is going to tell me how it is going to approach this problem as if it were doing an academic research paper. I then have the option, the control of saying, no, that's not exactly what I want you to do. Do these other things instead, or add this to your research plan, or take this away from your research plan. So you have that ability to direct it in exactly the ways you want that to do the research. It is then going to go off and do the research. It's going to take somewhere between a few minutes to a few hours, depending on how in-depth you've asked it to create this report. And then if we go on to the next tab, this is what happens as the output of this research report. If we go to the next tab on here, you can export this as a Google document. This document, I believe, is 24 pages long. And we can scroll through, and we can see all of these different aspects of this research report that I've asked it to do. You can even see on the left-hand side there, it's outlined. So you can see all of the different categories of research that I have asked this to do in a very, very in-depth way. And so if you're really looking to dive into something very, very specifically, if you are exploring a new industry, if that skills analysis or that conversation that you had with ChatGPT told you about an industry that you have absolutely no idea about, you can pop into deep research and tell it, here's my resume, this is an industry that I'm looking to explore, help me understand how I fit into this industry. What skills of mine fit really well here? What are the skills that I'm missing? How can I bridge the gap between the skills that I am missing and what I'll need to be successful in this industry? Who are the biggest players in this industry? What makes them different? The list is endless. You can truly make this research report exactly your own, exactly how you want it to be. All right, I'll save questions for the end. Let's move on to the next step. So again, you've figured out what you like, you figured out what you're good at, you figured out where to apply, you've gone real deep on yourself and how you fit into those particular industries. The next step is to figure out, who can I talk to now? You're ready to explore a new industry. The next step of this process is actually getting face-to-face with people so that you can actually learn. It's one thing to read this AI-generated research report or to have ChatGPT tell you, you should look at these different sectors. It's a whole different thing to actually talk to someone that has been in that sector, that you know well, that you can trust, that can help you understand what it really means to be working at that company that you've never worked at, or in this role that you've never worked at. So I'm back here on Hiring Coach. This is the coffee chat outline. What it basically does is walk you through the main steps of what you do when you want to ask someone to have a coffee chat with you. The first thing it asks you to do is to figure out what are your goals of this coffee chat. So you can select a few of those goals. After you do that, you can scroll down a little further, and we get to the next section, which is to choose the right people to have that conversation with. And so in this tool, I can specify some of the characteristics of the person that I might want to be having a chat with. What we can see here is in this example, I'm looking at the world of game design. I forgot that I was going to be on the East Coast for this. With someone who is a user experience researcher, doesn't matter where they're located, but I want them to be a senior person. What this has done is it has created a natural language sentence for me that I'm now going to take into the next tool I'm going to demo for you, which is called Happenstance. And so Happenstance is the LinkedIn search capability that I wish existed in LinkedIn, but does not. So with Happenstance, you can search through, you connect this to your LinkedIn profile. And with that, you can then search using natural language through your entire LinkedIn network in a way that you just can't do with the existing filters that are on LinkedIn. And so if we scroll down a little bit, we can see there's an input search box here with a more appropriate search term here. So what I'm asking it to do here is find me someone in my network who works in renewable energy, who lives in Washington, D.C., who has at least 5 years of experience. What Happenstance is going to do is it's going to break that natural language string into each of those component parts, which are works in the renewable energy industry, is based in Washington, D.C., has at least 5 years of experience. For each one of those criteria, this tool is going to comb through my entire LinkedIn network, and it is going to score all of my contacts based on all 3 of those criteria. It is then going to give me a stack-ranked list of the people in my network who most closely fit the description that I'm looking for. So if we go on to the next tab, we can see what that output actually looks like. It's giving me not only that set of people that are already stack ranked, but it's also showing me why it believes that these people fit the search criteria that I am looking for. And as we scroll down the list, we get to the parts where you can keep scrolling down. The parts where you start seeing the yellow circles, and at some point you'll see the blank circles, because as we scroll down that list, people will be less and less relevant. But what this is showing us is that starting from the top down, that is how I want to approach reaching out to people on LinkedIn in order to start learning about these industries, because those are the people that most closely align with exactly the kind of information that I'm looking to learn at this part of the process. All right, let's head on to the next demo. So we're back at the coffee chat outline. This will just continue to take you through the steps of you've identified who are the people that you actually want to reach out to, and now we can go through the steps, and AI can help you do some of the things like craft the actual language of the LinkedIn message that you're going to send to them. When you're in that coffee chat conversation, it can help you understand what are some of the questions that you might want to ask. Those questions are going to be based on the goals that you selected at the very top of this. So if we click on Generate question ideas. This is just going to, in real time, generate some questions for me that give me a starting point for how I could go about having this conversation. I know for me, one of the most difficult things about reaching out to people about having these conversations is that it can be really hard to know where to start. So I would treat all of this just as a starting point for where you then go and customize it and make it your own. All right, let's head to the next demo. Okay, so we've gone through figuring out what we love, what we're good at, where we should apply, who we should talk to learn about those sectors. We're now at the part of this process where you're actually getting into the nuts and bolts of applying. So what we are seeing here is Hiring Coach. Hiring Coach is an AI-powered platform that will help you figure out how to present the best version of yourself on every individual job application that you are putting out there, from resumes all the way through interviews. So what it's doing is it's customizing things based on your resume, which is a representation of who you are, and the job description, which is a representation of where you want to be. So this whole process in Hiring Coach starts with uploading a job description. So on here, we are on this job description page. If we go on to the next tab, this is a job description that you might be applying to. It's very easy to upload these job descriptions into Hiring Coach. So what you can do is just copy the entire page. You don't have to worry about getting down to the exact words of the job description because the AI will figure out what's relevant and what's not. So you can copy the whole thing, go back into Hiring Coach, paste it in. And then once you paste that in, we can escape from we would hit upload. And then what that's going to do is take us back to the job table. And in here, when we click on the view button next to that job, we can see how it has ingested that job data. It's basically put it into a very structured format that calls out the specific requirements of that job, some of the things about that company. Basically, it just takes all of the information it knows from that job description, puts it into a really nice, pretty format for you to look through. All right, we've got the job up there. The next step on here. All right, so we have uploaded the job. Now we can upload our resume. This is very simple, like we've seen in ChatGPT and other things. You just, if you click on Upload Resume, box pops up, you drop in the file. It shows up here in this table. And if we go on to the next tab, we can see what that looks like. So it's basically taking your resume in whatever format it's in, and it is standardizing that format into something that is going to be very friendly for the robots to read on the other end of this. So when you are applying to jobs, almost always, there will be a tool that the recruiters are using, which is referred to as an ATS, or Applicant Tracking System. And you can imagine on the other end of this, they are also using robots to extract the text from your resume and put it into whatever format they have. And so for your own benefit, you want to make sure to format your resume in a way such that it's really easy for their robots to figure out what you are trying to say. So this is one of those formats that just makes it very, very easy. In here, now that we have the resume uploaded, what we can do is now start tailoring this resume specifically to the job that I am applying to. This is a really important part of the process because, again, when we think about this on the other side of this, where we have the recruiters, you can imagine they're also using their own AI tools to find the candidates that are going to most likely be the one, or that they believe are going to be the ones that are most likely to fit their job description. And that means the more tailored your resume is specifically to that job, the more likely you are to be bubbled up to the top of that pile. And so in here, on the top left, there is a button that says Tailor to a Job. And if we click on that button, it will show the list of all of the jobs that I have already uploaded into the system. I would pick one of those jobs, and this is going to take a minute. And then on the other end of this, it is now going to, for every bullet I have on my resume, offer me additional options of how I could rewrite that bullet that both follows the best practices of how you write a resume bullet, as well as takes into account what is said in that specific job requirement. And so, yes, if we clicked on one of those bullets, you see all of the different options. I can click on one of those options, it inserts it into my resume, and then from this point, and I would stress this with every single AI tool that you are using, this is a starting point. And so what you need to do now is then to customize it for yourself and add your own flavor to this. These are all idea generators, but at the end of the day, it's really incumbent upon you to make sure that you are adding your own personal brand to all of this to make it truly, truly your own. All right, let's head to the next tab. So something you might be wondering about is how good of a fit am I for this job application? One of the things that we have here is a fit analysis, which basically just looks at the job that you uploaded, it looks at your resume, and it scores the two across different categories here. We can then go on to the next page, which shows what you are particularly strong at with respect to, if we go back one tab and click on that button that says Next Strengths at the bottom there, we will see what makes us really great for this role. But what is likely more helpful is if we click on that next tab again, we'll see the areas where we might not exactly fit the bill of this job. And so similar to before, we can either see the areas that truly don't represent who we are, or see the areas that I know that I have as part of my background, but that somehow are not being communicated well. And so that is data for me to then go back and think about how can I better communicate those particular skills in the materials that I'm providing as part of this application. This is something you can also do in ChatGPT. You can go into ChatGPT, you can paste in the job description, you can paste in the resume, and you can tell it, analyze this for strengths and weaknesses, and you can be very, very specific if there is specific information that you are looking to understand about how you relate to that specific job application. Let's go on to the next tab here. So we've got our resume. We've understood how well we fit on this. The next step in this might be to generate a cover letter. And so what we're looking at here is a table of all of the jobs that I've already uploaded. If I go on to the next tab, this is going to show me what it looks like to have a cover letter generated in this platform. The way that we approach cover letters is to break them down into each of their individual component parts for every paragraph. And for each of those paragraphs, we generate many options for you to look through. In many instances, it's a lot easier to work with something on the table. It is a lot easier to pick from a menu of things than it is to start with a blank canvas. And that is really the idea behind here, is that rather than starting from a blank page, you're now starting from a place of, you might not know exactly the writing style that is, that jives the best with you and how you want to be communicating. But you can look through a whole menu of options that you're seeing on the left-hand side here for all of the different ways that you might write that introductory paragraph or that closing paragraph. There's a different quirk to this too for the body paragraphs, where the format that we recommend is having 3 bullet points, which include 3 different skills that are drawn from that job description. And in Hiring Coach, we then look at those skills, we cross-reference it with your resume, and then pull out these specific examples from your resume that demonstrate that skill that they are looking for. Now, the AI is going to pick a default set of these things based on what it thinks are the most important skills and your best representation of those skills. But what's great about something like this is that you know yourself better than this AI does. And so you have the options here to look through, okay, well, maybe that's not actually the best representation of my showing off that particular skill, I'm going to pick a different example. Or maybe that's not the skill that I think is really my strongest as it relates to this job. I'm going to pick from a different skill that has been identified as one that this job is really looking for. All right, let's head on to the next demo. This is my favorite part of this interface, which is the job interview prep. So what we can do here is it's going to ask us to pick a job. Once we've selected that job, it's going to take us to the screen where we can select from a number of pre-populated, very common interview questions. If none of those is the question that I actually want to practice, I can type in my own question here. And then I can click on Practice this question. Before I practice this question, after we click on that button, we can have AI help us figure out how do we answer this question. So based on my resume, based on this job description, for this particular question, what might one possible way be for me to answer this? And it'll outline that in bullet form. Key points here are that it's in bullet form. This is not a script for how you should answer this question, because the idea is that it is giving you ideas, but we really want you to take this and put it into your own words as a representation of who you are. With that outline, you can then go and actually practice these interview questions out loud. And so when you can go ahead and hit start recording. Just to show you what this looks like, there's going to be, you can actually see it there at the bottom. It's starting to transcribe the words that I'm saying. And so we can stop this. That's an answer that I had given before, but it'll transcribe the full answer that you have and put it into nice, pretty sentences. And then we can have AI analyze my response to this question. And so if we go on to the Get Feedback tab, this is going to take a moment, and it's going to look at the actual text of what I just said for this question. And it's going to do a few things with that text. First, it's going to tell me what the interviewer heard on the other side of this table, which might be a little different than what you thought you said. And so it's always really good to have a peek into the other side of what is actually communicated in the answer that you gave. The next thing it's going to do is give you a high-level overview of how you could improve that answer generally. And then it's going to go into a point-by-point analysis across different categories of common ways to analyze interview answers. Things like, how relevant was my answer to this question? How in-depth did I go in answering this question? How good was my use of examples in this question? And the score part of this is really less relevant. The more important part of this is the feedback that you are seeing. It's the text that it is telling you about what you did well on that particular category, but more importantly, how you could do this better the next time that you do this. All right, let's move on to the next tab. One more. OK, we've heard this a couple times tonight. You have all experienced this. Job hunting can be a little bit of a slog. So sometimes it's nice to have a little pick-me-up. So in Hiring Coach, we have a little pep talk for you. Originally, I built this with the idea of, before you go into an interview, sometimes you just need someone to tell you how awesome you are. And so for any job that you've uploaded here, you can have it generate a pep talk. It will give you a mountain of information about why you are perfect for this job. You can also have a robot say this out loud to you. Let's see if that will work.
Absolutely the perfect fit for this director global mental health role at CHI. First, your 13 years of experience navigating complex global health and development landscapes, working with U.S. federal agencies, NGOs, and governments, has honed your ability to manage and incubate impactful programs. For instance, at the U.S. Global Development Partnership Agency, you co-managed a $50 million plus portfolio revamped tracking systems to proactively identify issues, and produce concise, readable briefs for senior leaders. This directly aligns with CHI's need for someone who can lead.
Truly, the goal of this is just to make you feel really great about all of the great things that you have done. So feel free to use that as much as you want. You can even have them regenerate the talks so that you're getting a little different flavor if you just need to hear it again. Let's move on to the next tab here. These are some resources that we've put together for you for folks that are experiencing this transition. There are many, many programs out there to help as part of this. We've just collected some of them here. They are organized by state, so you can select your state from that dropdown and have just a very easy collection and access to all of these different resources that are in front of you. There are a lot of them, and so it's worthwhile to take a spin through and see if there are any other resources out there that you might be able to take advantage of. And let's go down to the last tab here. So I mentioned at the top of the talk, I'll mention it again, hiringcoach.ai/CNM is a page where you can go to find the full set of modules that we've covered here, so you can have all of the links to all of the different tools that we have covered today. So with that, I'm going to hand this back off to Joe. Thank you all so much.